Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. I'm your host, Amanda, and my amazing co host is.
Hello, I'm Meagan.
Hey, hey. All right, so we are your source for messy, imperfect homeschool community and advice. This isn't a social media highlight reel telling you how perfect we are and how smooth every single day of life and homeschooling is.
Yeah, no. I've said it before. I'll say it again. What is the point of that? I prefer real life, real people, real advice. Like, life is hard enough without having to try to tease out what's legit and what's persona that someone's putting out there. So there's no faking it here. If you're new to homeschooling or considering homeschooling, this is what it's really like. And we love homeschooling. Don't get us wrong. We wouldn't have it any other way. But some days are hard. It isn't all skipping through fields of daisies like it is on Instagram.
Yeah, true story. Right. So the other thing that we are all about here at Homeschool Moms Unfiltered is that we are secular and progressive. There are no Bible verses. There are no amens, sister. There's no spare the rod BS. And along with that, we'll just go ahead and tell you upfront, we are LGBTQIA plus allies. We support Black Lives Matter. We believe in women's right to bodily autonomy and on and on and on, right? The list goes on and on. So if you are feeling like a fish out of water with the ever prevalent conservative homeschool crowd, you're welcome here. Relax and settle in. You have finally found your people.
Yeah, I love it. So our topic for today's episode really taps into that real life bit that we were just talking about a moment ago. We're going to be discussing how you manage alone time and things like doctor's appointments when you're homeschooling. And here's the deal. We love being with our respective children. Truly, they're funny and they're smart and they're sweet. But homeschooling equals a lot of together time. And even when that's a good thing, sometimes it can feel like a bit much.
Yeah, true story. True story again. And there's the necessities of life, like going to the dentist or getting a mammogram. And you might be thinking, how the heck do I pull all of that off when we are together all of the time?
Yes, we are. So we'll talk about it all today and hopefully share some tips that you'll find helpful if you're trying to juggle it all and wondering how other people are managing their circus and their monkeys. But first, we start every episode off with a weekly recap as part of our Keeping It Real vibe over here. So how's your week been, Amanda?
Yeah, it's been okay. I have talked before on the podcast, so if you've listened before, this is nothing new, but we live in a condo. And where we live, a lot of the condo buildings and apartment buildings have swimming pools because we're in Southern California. We had lived in a place before that had one, but when we decided to get serious and actually put down some roots, we bought a place. And we bought specifically in a building that did not have a pool because we don't go to the pool that often. And a building with a pool costs a lot more. And not only does buying into the building cost a lot more, but then your HOA assessments, your monthly dues are a lot more because they pay for the maintenance and the upkeep and the increased insurance costs and all of those kinds of things. So part of that is that a couple of times every year, we do some kind of a staycation, usually with friends, but sometimes just family or our core little family, so that we can go somewhere and stay and do the whole pool thing and all of that jazz. And so this week was one of those weeks where we did that. And so it was a lot of fun. It's one of those things, we travel a lot and I love that. And I love the fact that we can, just pop to a hotel, especially in this case, we use a free night certificate. So it didn't cost us anything to have the hotel and free breakfast and all that good jazz. And friends came with us. So that was great. Another thing, if you listen often, that you know, is that I have a lot of health problems. I'm disabled and I have chronic illness. One of the things that I don't talk too often about is that this whole thing started a few decades ago with a chronic pain condition. For the most part, it's fairly well controlled. And so I have other things that have developed since then that are a lot more kind of top of mind and causing problems. But this week, that pain condition has been freaking out of control. So I'm on day 4 of constant muscle relaxer use, trying to get the spasms to stop. So hopefully I make sense. But if I don't, hey, we tried.
Real life, baby. This is what we do.
Yep. Yeah, so that's what we've got going on. I'm a little stressed. I'll say I am a little stressed because we're filming very end of July. By the time this airs at the beginning of August, for us in our world, we have to start making a lot of decisions about what curriculum we're using and how we're going to hit our state standards and things like that, because we do homeschool through a public school charter, an independent study program in the state of California. And so there's a lot of things for the charter that we specifically belong to that have to be put in place. Meagan always gets a little twitchy when she sees my giant spreadsheet of all the things we're going to do and what it is each week and all of that. But I make my own spreadsheet and then I have to put it in the school's master spreadsheet and it has to line up with all of the state standards and things like that. So I've been really avoiding thinking about that, but I just filled in the last of the paperwork this morning. So now I have to actually start all of my lesson planning and I'm a little dreading that. There we
You've
go.
got it. You'll get there. You love your spreadsheets and your curriculum. So it's one of those, I'm assuming it's one of those dread, but also secretly once you hit your groove, you're like, mm-hmm.
Oh, that's it. Once it's done, it'll feel good because I do it takes about a week of pretty intense planning and moving things around and focusing because we also get some funds that we can spend, but there are all of these parameters around it and you have to really move a lot of things around and figure a lot of things out. So it's a week of a real challenge. But once that week is done, then for the most part, I feel like the rest of the year is pretty easy, right? Literally the whole rest of the year, I can just kind of reference back and be like, oh yeah, that's generally what we were supposed to be doing. And then all we have to worry about is tweaking when things aren't working. And I'm totally fine with that. I got that. It's just that 1 week of really intense, trying, you talk about the sticky notes on a board and moving them around. It would be an entire, 20-foot wall of sticky notes trying to move all of the moving pieces around and make it. It'll be fine once it's done.
Mm-hmm. You'll get there.
Yeah. So how about you? What do you got going on this week? You've been busy.
I have been busy, but just, life stuff, nothing ridiculous, nothing terrible, whatever. We're still waiting on our stinking visas, which is really annoying. That's pretty much the only thing that dominates my thoughts at this point, because at a certain point, we'll have to leave Portugal again if we haven't gotten our visas. Yeah. I actually emailed the embassy the other day and was like, hi, remember me? And they were great. They replied back in a timely manner, but the reply was about as helpful as a winter coat in July. It was just we haven't reviewed your file yet. And I was like, okay, but I'm kind of hoping that the fact that I sent, maybe other people have done the same thing and said shortly thereafter it started moving again. And I'm like, okay. So I made my youngest kid an appointment to see an ear, nose, and throat specialist. If you've listened to us before, my 13-year-old has epic ear problems. And so we're really at a point where we need to see a specialist again. But it's been hard because we've been in and out of Portugal so much. And so I made an appointment that we can only go to if our visas come through, just based upon when the appointment is. It was the one and only appointment available in the entire month of August. One. That was it. That was the only appointment that was available at the clinic that we go to.
In August, that's
right.
Only a few weeks away. When
it was a miracle.
For a specialist, it's 6 months and I pay for PPO and I'm
well, they only release the calendar once, September isn't up yet, for example. Yeah. So that's why great, you can't book 6 months out, which, kind of works. So yeah, I've just kind of been working on that and just, doing life and all that kind of stuff. And we got back from Berlin the other day. I got a new hairdryer, which I'm super excited about. I haven't had a hairdryer since we left the US in October. I gave mine away because you can convert electricity, but not a blow dryer, right? I'm going to be tripping a lot of fuses if I'm trying to take my US blow dryer over to Europe. So I splurged and I got myself a Shark Flex style after watching 1,000,001 YouTube tutorials. So that's been fun. Just kind of figuring out how it works. My daughter is already in love with it too. So that's been fun. It's hot here. So today, I haven't even told you yet, Amanda. Today is a braless, pantsless day of podcasting because that's just what it is. We don't have air conditioning. It's Europe. It's hot. Yesterday was my son's service dog's birthday. She had a meatloaf cake with mashed potatoes for frosting. And I put little sprinkled carrot for garnish and whatnot. So we had a little celebration. So it's just been a lot of that stuff, but nothing major. You know what I mean? Just kind of everyday stuff that we've been plugging along through. So all good. All good. With any luck, I'll have a visa soon. And then, but if not, we kind of are starting to put a plan into place. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see. Anyway, let's dive into our topic for the day, shall we?
Yes, let's do it.
I like it. So, alone time and life logistics when you are homeschooling. So, first of all, let's just start by saying that wanting and really needing alone time doesn't make you a bad parent. We're both women. We welcome everyone in our audience, but we can only speak to the life experience that we have had. So, in our culture, meaning US based culture, we're both from the United States, women especially, I feel like, have been guilted into giving and giving and giving of ourselves until we are like a puddle on the floor. And then some guru of self-help genius swoops in and goes, "You can't pour from an empty cup." And it's like, well, that's helpful, right? I mean, what are you supposed to do with that information?
You're like,
So,
"Oh, watch me."
right, exactly. I know, I do it all the time. You can, you totally can. Right. Not for better, but I can. I've done it. So the mixed messages are overwhelming and exhausting. Breaks are necessary. They're good for you. We're telling ourselves this at the same time we're telling you this, I think, a little bit too.
Yeah.
And they don't make you a less caring or diligent parent. So today we're going to explore how to juggle all the things with as much sanity as we can muster.
Yeah. No, true. And look, I'm going to be honest. We're going to share personal examples as we make our way through this episode about how we made this work with our small children. But when my kiddo was very young, I really did not get much in the way of breaks. My husband, who is my primary parenting partner, I'll put that out there, he was usually gone at least 12 hours a day during the work week. He still works those kinds of hours. He still works at least 12 hours a day, but he does work from home now. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic. And we have a little bit of an older kiddo. So it's more about having someone who is here if there's an emergency versus someone who has to be, like hands on with the kiddo.
Keeping
But
the kid alive. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Or like you're not going to be that at that one, right? That it made all of the rounds in early COVID days where like the dad was on like a really important call with like BBC or something and the kids like run into the room. Like we're past those situations now. But when my kiddo was younger, my husband wasn't home for huge chunks of the day. And we didn't have any family close by. They're really like a plane ride away. We moved to an entirely new city when my babe was 6 months old. So we didn't have any close friends. And let's be real, like developing the kind of relationship where you feel comfortable leaving your kiddo with someone else, it takes time.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, oh, I just met you a month later. Like, do you want to keep my kid for a few hours while I go do this thing? Right. Like it doesn't happen straight away. So it was really challenging for us in the early days. And I would say it didn't really get easier on our end for us in our specific situation until kiddo got probably closer to 7. So I'm just going to put that out there. Like if you're listening and you're like, oh my God, my kid's only 4 and I'm dying, I'm sorry. And Meagan might have a different situation, a different story, right? But like real story, it was still really challenging up until about 7. And we have talked a lot about this, but we live in the city, right? We live like right downtown in a city. So there's no go out and play in the yard or even go to the park by yourself. Like even at 11, if I sent my kid to the park by himself in the neighborhood and the city that we live in, like CPS would 100% get called on me. Clean and Safe would 100% be at my door with my child. Like, what are you doing, lady? So there are differences.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's funny. So I have 3 kids, like they're 17, 16, and almost 14. And it's interesting, like what I let the oldest one do when he was nearly 14 is totally different than how I look at the baby who's and it's so silly. It's that thing, right? It's like it's the baby. And so my oldest, I'm like, sure, go to Turkey with friends. Like, and then the baby, I'm like, text me in between subway trains so that I know you've switched trains from one train to the other train, right? That whole thing. He'll come back and he's very observant about what's going on around him. And he'll come home. He's like, I saw a man on the train today who was trying to ask people for money and he had a hairless dog and he was playing the accordion. And I was just like, okay, like this instills great confidence. that you are, you know? I think he was totally harmless. I mean, Liam found him entertaining, but I was just like, okay, right. With my oldest, it was just, and he doesn't tell me as much either. So maybe he saw all the same strange stuff when he went to the great big world and he just never told me. I think I might prefer that. So yeah, I mean, I was in the same situation husband wise. I am married to a workaholic, and it's interesting because I think sometimes it depends on, it's like that grass is always greener thing, right? Where people look at you and they're like, "Oh, you can travel or you can do this or you can do that and whatever." And it's like, yeah, but I've literally never had a parenting partner that's married to me. My mom is as close as I've got to a parenting partner. She's the one that I go to if I need to talk through, what do I do? My daughter wants to go to Spain in October. And so it was this whole do I, don't I let her go kind of thing. There were a couple of variables there. I'm talking to my mom about that, not my husband. He's a workaholic. He's like, whatever you decide, I'm sure it'll be fine. So, there's a give and take with the life that you have and, how it looks from the outside and the perks. And then on the inside, you're like, wow. So, I mean, I forget, was I talking to you, Amanda, or maybe it was my mom? Because now you're like half my parenting partner, right? When I'm like, what do you think I should do about this Spain trip? But so my husband has been to a total of 2 doctor's appointments ever.
Mhm.
And those have been in the last 18 months. One was when we were moving, and one kid just needed to go for a follow-up appointment. I was like, you're taking him. And then the other one was truly out of necessity because we weren't in the US and I needed him to translate. So I mean, literally never had a partner that shows up to things. He's never been to a parent teacher conference. He's never any of that stuff. So I'm with you on the husband front. I was fortunate though that my parents have either lived with us or down the street from us pretty much my entire adult life. So that makes a huge difference because when you're talking about can you trust your kids with, I mean, I know not everyone can trust their parents with their children, but I'm very fortunate to be able to just do that. Although my dad did call me once while I was on a business trip and ask me if he should heat up a yogurt to feed my kid. And I was like, do you eat hot yogurt? Like, he was a toddler. And my dad was like, but again, my dad's a workaholic. He was never there when I was a kid. So this toddler was like an alien to him. He was like, what am I supposed to do with it? Your mother went out and said I should give him a yogurt. Should I heat it? No, he's a human. He's not a weirdo. Like, just he's fine. But I did have 3 kids under 4, right? I mean, that's just how it worked out. So it was a lot. I am the opposite in the sense that we lived in a super suburban, very lovely gated neighborhood where I could let my kids free range. And because they're close in age, they have always just kind of looked out for each other. And so it was easy when we lived in Florida. I would just leave my front door open to kind of listen for screaming, not like help I'm being kidnapped screaming, but more like I'm bleeding in the street screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they knew their radius. They knew they could go to the right to the stop sign. They knew they could go to the left to the house with the blah, blah, blah. And they were out there with a ton of other kids. There were like 16 kids in their little posse that lived all on that same little block there. So, I would be able to sit and read a book on my sofa while they were playing outside. And for the most part, you heard laughing and giggling and sometimes some tense words they'd sorted out amongst themselves. And it was great. So that was good. But I also had lived there beforehand. So again, opposite to your experience, Amanda, I would lie down in traffic for you circle of friends that I had when I had kids. I offered to surrogate for one of them. That's how close we are. It is a sisterhood. And so I would trust them with my children any day of the week. And so I knew that I always had support and I always had coverage. For me, the struggle wasn't in finding help, but it was recognizing when I needed a break, knowing that it was okay to need a break. And I mean, it's been 10, 12 years since I was in that situation. I've come a long way since then. I'm still not amazing at it, but I have come a long way. I have a text chat with my kids and I will absolutely send them a text and be like, I need a nap. See you later. And I can do that now and they're older. So obviously they're completely self-sufficient at this point, but for the most part, self-sufficient. But yeah, I wasn't great at asking for help or thinking that it was okay. Like it was that mindset that if you're not doing all of it all the time,
Yeah.
you're not adequate, you're failing as a mother, you suck, whatever it is. And so I would run myself into the ground, which was fun.
Yeah. I mean, we have definitely had a big swing in that direction, right? There's like all kinds of social media things out there, memes and jokes and whatever. And And it is, there's that like, oh, there's a reason they were all drunk and high in the 50s and all of this sort of thing. And it's swung this other way where, yeah, if you can't do it all constantly 100% of the time on your own, then you aren't a good mother. And it's super unrealistic, but it's hard to unpack that, right?
If you're not a mom listening too, like tell us what your experience is like because we only know our lived experience. So there might be for other people in different walks of life and different life experiences, there might be that thing, but we only know ours. I don't know if I've ever shared this story on the podcast, but did I tell you about the time that I almost went to spin class with pneumonia? Did I tell you that?
I think maybe. I do think you maybe
Did I
shared that.
share it on the podcast? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I don't think I have. So I was doing all the things. I was parenting like a boss, like all day long and present for my kids and taking them here. And we're at the park and we're doing this and home cooked meals and all that kind of stuff. And one of my lie down in traffic level friends, her mom had passed away and she had kind of come to a point where she was like, I cry a lot and drink a lot of wine at night. And it's like not the best way to spend my evenings because I don't know what else to do with myself once my kids are in bed. I cry. And I'm like, well, I get that. But there was a spin class at 8 o'clock at night. So I said, well, once our kids are all down, we could go to the spin class. And then, you go home, you take a shower. By then, maybe you'll be feeling a little bit better and maybe you only cry a little bit or have like a glass of wine, and it'll be a step towards the direction you're trying to move. And she was like, okay, let's do it. So we'd been doing it and it was great. So one day I felt terrible. I mean, I just felt like shit. And I was like, I can't bail on her. I can't bail. I'd be such a bad friend and blah, blah, blah. And so I was determined I was going to go to spin class from 8 to 9 and then swing by urgent care. That was what I said. I was going to swing by urgent care before they closed at 10 and then go home. And finally, my husband was like, you cannot go to spin class. This is stupid. And so I bailed on her, which I felt terrible about. And it was like, it took me forever to come to that realization. And I went to urgent care and found out that I had pneumonia. And I was like, could you imagine if I had shown up there all sweaty in my spin clothes and been like, I have like this, and they'd be like, you just came from a spin class, you idiot. Like, what is wrong with you? But it was that degree of like, I can't let someone else down, right? I can't cancel a plan. I can't back out of something. It was, that's how my brain works. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. So
Yeah, no. I mean, that's it, right? It's so hard to walk that line because it feels like in a lot of ways, flaky people are becoming more and more dominant and prevalent. So you don't want to be the flake, but at the same time, like being able to draw healthy boundaries and hold those healthy boundaries are also important. And so like how you find that and communicate, right? Communication is so important, but we do so much by text these days. It's hard to
mhm.
make sure that it's clear and yada, yada, yada. Okay. So back to this like general topic. So the first thing we've mentioned it, like without specifically saying, but we both talked about this is the idea of bartering with a friend. This whole thing of I'll watch your kids, you watch mine. And it can work really well if your values and routines align. As I said earlier, we moved to a brand new city when I first had my babe. We were living in Belgium in an expat community, and there were several in our friend group. In fact, everyone in our friend group ended up being pregnant at the same time. And so it worked out really nicely because we did a lot of baby swapping, babysitting care, and things like that in the very early days when our littles were tiny. And it was either like well, we're going to have a baby in a few months and we need to practice kind of babysitting, or the like, okay, we had the baby and we really need like just a little bit of time. Let's swap, like you take this weekend and I'll take the next weekend kind of thing. So that worked out amazing. But then at 5 months, we had to move, put us in a bit of a bind. That said, at 6 months, we were in SoCal, and my husband did know someone who lived here. And they were a very lovely family, but they were also the kind of people who were they spent a lot of time trying to convert people to Jesus. They were all about trying to save people. And I didn't know them when my kiddo was tiny, and so I wasn't comfortable. And then as I got to know them more and my kiddo got bigger, I wasn't concerned about his physical health. Like I knew that it would be fine. And they had a pool. They were always inviting us to come over and let him swim and whatever. But it became really clear that if I wasn't there to run interference, they would be giving him like a children's Bible and sending him home with that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is not okay. And it didn't matter how many times I was like, oh, we don't, like, thank you, but no thank you. Like, thank you, but no thank you did not mean anything in their world. And so, like, no matter how many times they asked, it had to be like a no, like, just no, this is a boundary and you can't respect it. If you can't respect that boundary, what else will you not respect? Kind of a thing.
Yeah, that definitely makes it tough. I totally agree with that. So it's hard. It does take time to find your people. The other option is to participate in some sort of weekly drop off class or co-op. Again, you have to find the ones that fit your groove, but it might be something like art class, music class, a STEM, some sort of robotics, programs at the library. I mean, even if they're short, even if it's 60 minutes, 90 minutes, even if you just sit in your car while they're in art class for 60 minutes, sometimes that's golden. Or just go for a walk. Just drop them off. And I'm not talking a power walk with a weighted vest. I mean, if you want to, go for it. But just a stroll with fresh air and no one to be responsible for can do a world of good. When my kids were younger, I would check them into childcare at the Y sometimes and then never work out. So, and I was not the only one doing it. So, I mean, I could sit and pay bills, go through mail that needed to be opened and sift through all the junk. I could call a friend. I would watch Netflix sometimes. I watched that show Turn about the American Revolution in the lobby at the Y. That was my guilty pleasure for a while. I loved it. And my kids were happy. It wasn't, for the most part, where we were childcare at the Y wasn't like sit in a room and be bored. They would take them to the playground. They would go to the pool. So for my kids, they were happy as clams. They loved it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's it, right? If you have something like that and it works, great. For me, I definitely wasn't comfortable with this when my kiddo was little. My husband did do it a few times, not at the Y, at 24-hour fitness. And for me, my kiddo always came back sick, which given my chronic health problems, like that was an issue because when he was sick, then I was sick because you can't tell a child not to cough in your face. And so, and then beyond that, like it never felt particularly safe. And they always had the TV on playing some kind of cartoon or something that I would never allow be shown in my own home. And so like it was just like a whole lot of like nope, right? But like I said earlier in the show, by around the time he was 7, he was willing to start doing more drop-off programs, right? And it started out small, a 1-hour golf lesson kind of thing where I really would just maybe sit and read a book, not too far away sort of thing, but at least I could just disconnect and read a book, or maybe call my mom and talk to her without being interrupted a million times. And so that was nice. And then we got to the point where we were able to start doing more. I've talked before about like I do a 5-hour drop-off class once a week. He loves it. I love it. If you can make this work and you can find a way to either afford it or find something that is very reasonable. Some co-ops have, like you teach 1 week and then you don't have to teach other weeks. So you can make it work that way and it doesn't have to be too expensive. It can be so great for your kiddos to have their own independent time and for you to get that time as well.
I used to have a deal at co-op where I always had the fourth period free because we had different roles. Our co-op was huge in North Carolina. So there was teaching, there was assisting, there was cleaning, there were all these different jobs. And so I always had fourth period free, and it made sure that my co-op bestie always had fourth period free too. We would kind of organize it. And there was a convenience store. I mean, co-op was in the middle of freaking nowhere, but there was this little gas station convenience store thing that was diagonal across from where we held co-op. And we would just get in the car and go get some sort of dirty snack, like something chocolatey or peanut buttery. Just sit in the car and talk shit for a half an hour and escape. It was the highlight of my week. It was so
Yeah.
amazing. Finding these pockets, amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is an obvious one, but you can hire a babysitter if you can afford it, if it's feasible, for you for a break. It does not have to be for date night. It does not have to be because your cousin's getting married and they don't want the kids there and you got to this or you got to that, or because you have to take a parent to a doctor's appointment and you can't take the kids with you. So you use the babysitter for that. You can get a babysitter just for you. In some cases, you can find like a teen mother's helper that's more affordable where they come in and it just gives you a little bit of a break. You can do a part-time sitter. I definitely did this. My husband got laid off 2 weeks after we had our baby. Like I'd just gotten home from the hospital, right? You're like, oh, hey, guess what? We don't have a job. So we didn't start this right away with a little one because it took him 9 months to get a new job and a lot of months after that before we felt like financially like we could really breathe again. But once things had settled, I went and got a very part-time job in the evenings with the goal of that part-time job money helping pay for a sitter during the week. And it was once, maybe twice a week for 2, maybe 3 hours. It was a local college student who just wanted a little bit of extra money. It was cash under the table, exactly what she wanted. And just that little break, it made such a difference for me, whether I was taking care of things or running to the grocery store by myself or just going and getting a massage. I At that time was when I went and did my first laser hair removal, where you have to do like however many appointments every month, kind like once a month for however many months. Like I did that at that time when we had the sitter. And uh, you can, it's that thing. When you can make it work. For us, my husband got laid off again. And then it was like, well, it was really hard to justify spending that money on that thing at that time. But then he got a job and we were able to breathe again. And then we actually ended up fostering. And so then I had a little kid and a baby. And I was like, I think I need to look into that sitter again. Let's revisit that for just like a little bit of that break. And even just 2 hours once a week, really, it helped me a lot. And so if you can find a way to make that, to carve that out and make that part of your budget, it really can help a lot with just your mental health and
Sanity saving. Yeah.
uh, yeah. And then, if you have to make a lot of appointments, it was hard when I was only doing it for 2 hours, but when we could afford to have them come for 3 hours at a time, I could schedule my doctor's appointments further out and use it during that time for the big ones, the ones that I really didn't want to bring my kids along to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that is an option. So I think we both see a bunch of posts that are like, what do I do when I need to go to the dentist? What do I do when I need to go here or there and I have appointments? And if you can get a sitter or you can swap with a friend or whatever, great. But there's really nothing wrong with bringing your kids to these appointments. And it's a great opportunity for kids to also learn how to interact and how to engage in different environments because there is an expectation that they will behave a certain way in a doctor's waiting room or whatever place you might be taking them to. And so it's a great lesson where you're talking about the expectations ahead of time. You're talking through what the appointment is. First, we're going to sit in a waiting room. Then typically you get called back into this room and you see a nurse and then you wait again and the doctor comes. Paint the picture for them. Let them know what's going to happen. Let them know what to expect. Let them know that this is a place to be quiet. This is a place where we're sitting down, where we're using almost like a library voice most of the time. Kind of give them this information because it's really hard for us to get frustrated when they don't behave the way we want them to in a particular place if we haven't told them what our expectations are. And then you can bring things with you. Bring busy bags with Amanda loves her wiki sticks now. She's got me hooked on suggesting wiki sticks all the time too, right? They're small, they're portable, they don't make a mess, all that kind of stuff. Bring snacks, don't make a mess. Bring books, bring a tablet. I was just going to say no one's going to judge you for bringing a tablet. You know what? People are probably going to judge you for bringing a tablet. Let them, right? It's fine. There's no need for you to sit there and be like, well, at home, we don't really do a lot of screens, but because we're here, I feel like we need some, fuck them. Who
Yeah.
cares, right?
You're at a doctor's appointment with your kids. Like they can kiss your ass. Like, and I say that because I did this a lot, right? My kiddo and then kids plural when we were doing fostering, they came with me to pretty much all of my appointments. And I have a lot of specialists and I have to see my primary a lot. And I'm not going to say that any of it is easy, but my kiddos came with me literally for nearly every appointment, not oncology. I did whatever it took to make sure they didn't come with me to oncology because I feel like that's for me in our house. Those are complicated things to explain. Like Meagan was saying, like you explain what's going on and you talk about things. And I wasn't ready to put them in that. I wanted to be able to protect that a little bit more. But I mean, my kiddo came with me for a nerve conduction test once. If you've never had one of those, like they put needles in and shoot electricity through it and see what happens. And my kiddo was like, "What is happening?" I'm like, "It's really cool. Just watch. Like, check out how the body works, like this is your nerves." And then too, we talked before, in my family, we don't do much screen time. And especially up until like 7 or 8, we really limited screen time. But my kiddo 100% knew that he got to use his tablet at doctor's appointments and on long road trips. Those were the two main times. And so it kept it special. He loved it. We kept it loaded with things that were approved by us, specific movies and things like that. But he liked it. He enjoyed it. And he came and, yeah, sure, sometimes I had to baby wear the baby and the other kiddo was, on his tablet and the doctor was a little like, "Oh, you've got a bit of a ring circus today." And I'm like, "Yep, this is life, but I made it to the appointment. So pick your battles. Like, did you want me here or not?" Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's all they're learning. They're out in the world. They're learning. It's part of that. How do they learn to socialize? Because they're in the world. They exist in the world and they function.
And then this kind of goes into that. Like, if you take your kiddos with you to the appointment, you're modeling, you're scaffolding, and just in general, you can use these opportunities to scaffold independence. Whether you're bringing them with you or you're just doing it at home, you're building towards solo reading, quiet time, independent projects. And again, whether you're at home and you're doing it in your own home in the convenience of their bedroom in the living room, or you're taking them with you to an appointment and they're learning that at this time they have to sit quietly and read and give you time to talk with the doctor without interruption. It's all good. I've talked about it before. I think actually maybe just on the last podcast maybe a week or two ago about, all right, we did quiet, relaxed time in our home. As soon as the kiddo dropped nap, it was like, "Okay, if you don't want a nap, that's fine, but you're going to do this cool thing called quiet, relaxed time." And it was not quiet, but I did my best to relax. So, it is what it is. Obviously, I couldn't leave the house during that time because he was just in his room doing things and not old enough for me to be like, "Peace out. I'm going to go around the city and do whatever. And your dad's an hour and a half away at work. You'll be fine." We were not there, but it did give me enough of a break and enough downtime that I could be a better parent the rest of the hours of the day. And, those small chunks, they grew until as he got older, they were much bigger chunks of independent time for himself and for me. And then it also helped us get to the point where, again, depending on where you live and what you can do, and different states have different state laws and things you have to be aware of. But by like 9, I felt pretty confident being able to leave him home for small chunks of time and working on growing those chunks of time where he could be safely left alone and he felt comfortable and confident because we had been building on those times. We were doing the scaffolding work that built that independence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. We are huge fans of independence in our household and kind of pushing them out and being like, "You can do this, you can do it." So I love all of that. It's awesome. All right, we have more to talk about. Before we do, we just wanted to give you a quick reminder that we create unit studies that are available to our Patreon members, but also on Teachers Pay Teachers if you want to purchase them as a one-off. So they are secular, they are progressive in nature. We focus on own voice resources. We have vetted everything. We have saved you the time of having to go in and make sure that it's not subtle religion here and racist undertones there and everything else. We've kind of weeded all that stuff out to be able to have those conversations. So we're pretty pumped about the one that releases tomorrow, which is August 1st, as of the day we're recording this. It's by the time you're listening to this, it's already out. So scratch that. But it is based on the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which Lyndon B. Johnson signed on August 6th. So we typically tend to lean into something that happened in the month that we're releasing that thing. But it focuses on voting rights going way back in the United States, all the way to the Declaration of Independence and white male landowners being able to vote, and then covers obviously the civil rights movement. And then it carries through to today. I mean, this is 2025 and we have Texas trying to redraw all their district lines to make it easier for Republicans to win. And we've got Isaiah Martin. He was tossed in jail a week or so ago for speaking out against the gerrymandering occurring there now. So yeah, we love it, right? We put these units together. There's book resources in there, there's video resources, there's writing prompts, there's hands-on activities. This one has a timeline of voting rights where the kids color in a square based upon whether it's progress or resistance and or suppression, and then sequence their timeline events. And then we've got different activities for older kids and younger kids on how to draw district lines and work through these things with your kids. Give them a scenario, right? If I was an oil lobby, how would I want these lines drawn? If I was a white evangelical Christian leader, how would I want these lines drawn? If I am a Mexican immigrant that works at a factory and I live on 123 Main Street and I'm right on the border of being split from one district to another, how would I want to be represented? How would I want the lines drawn? And so there's activities there for kids to really be able to dive in and make those lines and have those discussions, but at a really age appropriate level. So yeah, and we've got tons of other unit studies too. That's just the newest one, but we tend to cover, I would say, quirkier topics or take a different approach than a lot of the other unit studies that are out there. So yeah, we'll link information in the comments if you're interested. And if you have any questions, always feel free to message us. But as a Patreon member, you just automatically get the unit study every month for pretty much every tier of membership that we have out there. You can look at the specifics on Patreon. We'll link that here as well. I put a coupon code, but yeah, they're awesome if we do say so ourselves. So check them out.
Yeah. And if you aren't one of the members that actually gets it on Patreon, as long as you sign up even for the free membership level in the monthly newsletter, you get a sneak peek video from the unit study for each month. So it gives you kind of an idea of where we're going with it and kind of like helps get you going if you want to do this and really kind of be thinking about it. So yeah, definitely sign up for Patreon. Even at the free level, you at least get a couple of links and things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so back to the topic. We have both talked about how we might not have the most even split in parenting, but that's not the case for a lot of folks. And parenting partners aren't always your spouse. So another option is split shift parenting. If you do have a parenting partner of some sort, hopefully, no matter what your situation is, whether they are your spouse or not, you could maybe look at tag teaming mornings or evenings or weekends. I know in our family, even when my husband was working these 12-hour days out of the office, and now he works 12-hour days, but we still have it set up so that he takes kind of like a 2-hour shift in the early evening. And that's for sure my time to check out and make sure that I don't get too crabby and I can come back and spend a little bit more time with the family a little later in the evening. Sometimes on the weekends, they'll go out for bike rides or things like that. But seriously, if you have a parenting partner who will regularly take your kiddos to the park or go out and do something fun, maybe they go fishing or they like to hike or whatever it is, like make that a regular thing. It is okay for moms to not be there for every single thing, despite what social media might tell you, despite what well-intentioned family members might say. It is okay for one parent, the primary parent, to not always be there for everything. Your kiddos can have fun and amazing experiences with whoever your parenting partner is, whether that's a sibling, your mom, your dad, or your partner, your spouse. It is okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Didn't know any of this. I think even if you had told me this when my kids were small, I probably wouldn't have believed it. I would have been like, that's not true. I have to be there. But ah,
And FOMO is real, right? Like,
yeah.
and you have to work that out with whoever your parenting partner is, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, you need your downtime. So even though you've never been to a water park with your kids, you have to let your parenting partner take them to a water park for the first time without you. That's not what I'm advocating here. But it is okay for them to go to the neighborhood park together, or it is okay for them. Like, you don't like touching the slimy fish. That is not my thing. If your husband wants to do that, by all means, you guys go have fun fishing. Send me a picture. I want to see the picture of the first fish. I don't need to touch the first fish. It's okay. And then we kind of talked about before, if you're taking your kiddos with you to an appointment and you're using technology, maybe you're bringing your tablet or whatever, some people are going to be jerks about it. Whatever, that is their problem, not your problem. But you can, in general, use technology strategically. Audiobooks, podcasts, documentaries, educational apps. They are all great ways to do quality solo learning. And I mean, I'm not sure that any of us are going to be like, it is absolutely a great idea to have your kid use only technology for 10 to 12 hours a day. They'll learn wonderfully. But you need to let go of the guilt around screens, full stop, because they can and do serve a purpose. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be screens. You can 100% get a device that will play audiobooks or podcasts for your kiddo with absolutely no screen involved. Screens are not allowed in my kiddo's bedroom. That's a hard rule. Even though he's a tween, like I said, we have really strict rules around technology and screen time in our home, but he still has access to things that will play audiobooks and podcasts, and he listens to them a lot. I mean, hours and hours a day, and he learns so much from them. It's okay.
Yeah, it's awesome. It works. What else? We've talked about quiet time already so much today, as far as just kind of building in a little block of time where even if you're all still home,
Mhm.
you've got your thing going on and they've got their thing going on. And if something's on fire, they'll come find you. But otherwise, you get some quiet time, which is wonderful. So yeah, and it's not a bad thing. It's okay, and it's good. We just did an episode not that long ago about why it's great for kids to be bored.
Yep.
Mash these two episodes together. Let them be bored, but solo bored. And then, I mean, you can be bored too. It's okay. Right. I mean, just sit there and let your brain empty out and be in, we call it noodling in my house, be a noodle on the sofa for a little while. It's awesome.
Yeah. And we did a whole other episode as well about the idea of like adjust expectations during certain seasons of life,
Ooh,
right? And like I said, we did a whole episode. Go listen to it if you are at this point in time. But you may not always have balance, right? Seasons shift, things ebb and flow in life in general, but especially in homeschool life. It's it's okay. And not only is it okay, it's important to remember that things change. And sometimes things are going to be really hard, but if you can make a plan for how you're going to move towards a little bit more balance for yourself, or maybe you commit to, I'm going to look into one of these things. Maybe you're going to look into a drop off co op, or you're going to look into setting up some kind of a rotation barter system schedule with a friend, or whatever that may be. You can't do it right now. You don't have the bandwidth to do it right now, but make a plan because this season isn't going to last forever.
I have a bit of that going on right now because everything is so dependent upon when we get our visa that it's like I feel like I can't plan life because I haven't been able to plan life. And it stinks because we like having a plan. We like having a bit of a rhythm or some goals in place and what, and it's really hard to do that when things are constantly shifting. It's like we're looking forward to just knowing what our path is and being in one spot, which would be amazing. So yeah, and I'm having to remind myself of that all the time, that this was a massive move and it's okay. And
Yeah.
it's going to be okay. And I think in those situations too, being honest with your kids about your needs and your feelings and all of that is hugely important. I've had those conversations with my kids about this is where we're at and it's okay that we are a little up in the air right now. Or being able to say to your kids, I'm super stressed right now because I'm waiting for these visas to come through and I feel like I can't really make plans right now. So I need a little bit of like, oof, right now. I just need a little bit of that, or I need a little bit of alone time. I need a nap. I need some quiet time. I need to go for a walk, whatever that might be. Letting your kids know those things allows them to see self care in action, boundary setting in action, and understand so that they won't be raised with the give, 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 give until you're dead on the floor mentality that we were raised, right? Let them see that we're doing it a different way and that it's okay to say those things out loud and then to take the time that you need.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And it's that thing, right? If you listen to us at all, we're always banging on this like model for your kids drum, right? But like modeling is so important. Your kiddos are going to grow up and they are going to relive a lot of the things that they saw growing up in their home. And you can do your best to model good, positive things because the reality is they're going to for sure model the bad things that they saw, the less than ideal things. There's no getting around that. But model this. It's silly, right? And we definitely do it in a jokey kind of way because I'm a 45-year-old adult, but I 100% tell my kiddo that I've got a play date planned with my friend Rebecca. And he's always like, "Oh, when do I get my next play date?" Right? But like this idea of letting him know, like I'm not sneaking off to go see a friend. I'm not slipping out to make sure he's not upset about it. I'm letting him know I'm taking this time. I'm carving out some time to go spend some time with this friend because I need that. I'm having a bit of a rough day. I I need to go talk to someone. I need to talk to a grown up who is not in my family. Like I love you. I travel with my kiddo. We do tons of things together, but there are times that I need to talk to someone who isn't my kiddo or isn't my spouse. And sharing that and verbalizing that so that your kids can actually learn how to set these boundaries and how to work on that. I mean, self-care, it's such like a cliche, I
Mhm.
feel like it's an SEO word, right? Self-care, but it's still important, whether it's cheesy or not.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
All right, so we're almost done. We'll wrap up with a mantra like we always do. But before we go, we just want to let you know they're done. They're done and they're beautiful and they're out in the world. And we're so excited. What am I yammering about? The courses, our online classes that we have been talking about putting together. We worked so hard on them over the summer. They have gone through beta testing. All of our beta testers have submitted their feedback, which, like, I mean, we're kind of like tooting our own horn here, but they were like really positive and like really receptive to them. So that's awesome. They're like, I have been homeschooling for a while, or I've been like reading all of the things and listening to your podcast for years at this point, and I still learn new things. And so that's all awesome. That was the goal. We really want to make sure that we put something awesome out there. But we've got 3 that are done and out in the world. You can find them on our social media. If you go to our Instagram, they'll be saved like in the story highlights, but you can also find them in this in the show notes here. You can find them from wherever. We'll make sure the links are everywhere. But there's a Homeschool 101 called the No Panic Boot Camp for people who are ready to just be a little bit more intentional and clear about how and why they're homeschooling. We have preschool and kindergarten reimagined, right? For those who are like, it's time, school is starting, and I know that like we're supposed to be doing something, but I just don't like what's happening. And like how do we do this? How do we make sure that like we're doing what we really want to do and not just what we feel like we're supposed to do? And then with it being August, like it's the perfect time. We also have the Smart Start Guide to Curriculum, which just really helps you figure out what kind of curriculum you want to use. We give you some jumping off points and our thoughts on some curriculum, but it's definitely not us telling you have to use this one, and this one. It is a full program that just helps you make sure that you're really finding the curriculum that works for you and for your kiddo, and, gives you tips and guidance on how to make sure that it's not whitewashed history and that it's not science that's going to be like, oh, and the people in the caves were with the dinosaurs. So yeah, we're really excited about them. And they're all very, very affordable. There's not a single class that's over $30. And then if you bundle them together, you can get a bit of a savings. So they're great. They come with a companion workbook that we also think is awesome. You can print it at home. Soon enough, you'll be able to order it online, pre-printed for you, but we're not quite there yet. Give us a little bit of time.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about the curriculum class the other day, and I said it's like that analogy of like teach a man to fish. So you post in a Facebook group, what is everybody using for second grade ELA? And it's like having 50 fish tossed at you. And you're like, what am I supposed to do with all these fish? The course is teaching you how to fish. It's not throwing fish at you. And like Amanda said, it's not us sitting there going, here are all these great programs, which by the way, we have affiliate links for, and you should use them because we get paid for this. None of that occurs. There's none of that. We do not get paid for any of the classes that we talk about in the thing. Right.
Single affiliate link in the course.
No, not at all. But yeah, it's like the ability to know how to evaluate curriculum on its merits based upon what's specific to you and your goals and the way your kid learns. That's what you need as opposed to having somebody throw 50 fish at you, which then you're like, okay, well, now I got to figure out all these different fish, right? I mean, you're more confused than when you started because you're covered in fish. So it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, so the courses are amazing. And yeah, we have them linked in the show notes. So come take them. We'd be glad. They're very concise. They're very streamlined. It's like a breadcrumb trail to homeschooling success. So it's pretty awesome sauce. All right, friends. Well, we have come to mantra time. So here we go for the day. Homeschooling your kids doesn't mean losing yourself in the process. Protecting your peace is part of the lesson plan for sustainable homeschooling
Yep.
and for life, sustainable life.
Yeah. There's
You know that like if you don't take a break, sometime your body will take the break for you. It's where we're at. So
Yep.
yeah. And it doesn't make you less of a homeschool parent or caregiver, less of a devoted person to the children in your life. And it's awesome. So have a wonderful rest of your day and happy homeschooling.
Yeah. Have a great one.